I was sitting by guys at the
That's what you
concert.
posted. Yeah, 32. Sure you do.
I have to. At a certain point, you have to. Otherwise, you're gonna pull something. I'm a little. Yeah. He got kicked in. I called him. You all right, man? Me and Steve have been doing this like this earlier. We should.
They go to Carowinds over
All righty, we're going to call the meeting of Monday, May 13th, 2024 to order for the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors. And our first item is closed meeting, and we're going to take a motion to enter into closed meeting. Be it resolved, the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby enters into closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-3711, number 1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for an employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. And that will be the library board. Do I have such a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fizikowski?
Aye.
Ms. DeMont?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye. We are
7
now in
ayes.
closed session.
It's going to be one of the
we're going to come out of closed meeting now, so I need a motion to come out.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and roll call, please.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Demontz?
Aye.
Mr. Grasky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Okay, and now we're going to certify, and the motion will read, whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on the state pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires the certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia, hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have such a motion?
Motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Ms. Demontz?
Aye.
Mr. Grasky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, and now it's time for our moment of silence and pledge, and I'll ask Ms. Hull to lead us.
Please stand for a moment of silence and then join me as I lead us in the pledge. Let us pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so our first item that we have tonight, under presentations, recognitions, and awards, we have Mr. David Clark with the Virginia Department of Transportation. So come on up, Mr. Clark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've got a few updates on some maintenance items and a couple other things we've been working on. Being spring, we're still coming out of the winter weather, so we're getting all our unpaved roads machined and hauled stone onto, and we'll be working those all summer long, and probably going to be having to start getting on some dust control, as a matter of fact, because it's been dry at least a week or so ago. Been doing some brush cutting and some mow trimming on Rustic Ridge and Brush Creek, cleaning and replacing some pipe, Paul School Road, 5 Points. Did some patching on Sydney Church, Pilot Road, Seneca Hollow, Allegheny Springs, and Mount Pleasant. And then some patching and ditching still ahead of some of the overlay schedules, like on Sydney Church. Mowing has started, just a little bit of it anyway, but we started. We've mowed Tyler Road. We've been trying to get at least the roads in towards the universities ready for graduation, which was a couple weeks ago. We are about done with repair to the concrete slab at Crab Creek Road. They've got the concrete part done. Maybe one more pour, and then we're going to do some approach work with some asphalt. So that should be done here pretty soon. We got to wait till the concrete gains strength before we can put traffic on it, though. We're also doing some work at the intersection of Childress Road and Route 8. That's kind of an odd angled intersection, and we're going to bring it in. We put some asphalt kind of on the side. We're bringing it in at more of a 90-degree angle because it's hard to look over your shoulder to see in some instances. And so we're going to put we've got some new asphalt in there, and then we'll restripe it so that it's obvious that you're supposed to tee up so you can look both ways fairly easily. And that work is going on. The asphalt work is done. It's just a matter of getting the lines striped. And I know there have been some questions about some of our line striping on overlaid roads, and we had not done some. We're reviewing some of those and going back, and I know there was a question about Long Shop Road, Mount Zion Road, and we are going to go ahead and do all of that. The Mount Zion section does qualify, and that was already in the plan. The Long Shop section doesn't qualify under the traffic count, but it does experience some other types of issues with visibility, and since it was striped at one time, we're going to go back and stripe that as well. But it's an exception to what our general rule is on striping roads less than 500 vehicles a day, simply because we just don't have the funds to keep up that inventory like we may have been able to do in the past. And that's it. That's all I have. I'll take any other questions or anything.
Okay. Let's start down with Mr. Supervisor Grafsky. Do you have any questions at this time?
Just a quick follow-up question. We had chatted, I don't know, a couple of months ago maybe about Wake Forest Road and checking out towards the end there, I think, off the side of the road where it goes into either the culverts or...
Yeah, I've been out there, measured in between some of that. We've gotten some of that scheduled.
Okay,
We're
fantastic.
basically trying to decide what we can do with
Okay.
some of it, because some of it's quite lengthy slopes down to the bottom.
Sure. Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay. Supervisor DeMotts?
Just want to follow up with you about the, on Walton Road where the road goes into the recycling plant. I know there's been some updates there. There's a drainage ditch that's new there. And there's also a handmade sign that says pond is dry, road is wet. So I'm not really sure do you have any information about
We're probably
what's
going
going on?
they're working on their part of the pond. If the pond is dry and the road is wet, I don't know why the road would be wet unless it's coming from underneath in some ways. I know it wasn't there before that entrance was put in, so we think we know where it's in general coming from. It may take some other work on our part to dig down below the road into a base and put in a French drain.
Okay. And I asked that, I think during the summer, it's not as challenging, but in the winter, it freezes over
Right.
where the road is wet. And
Yeah.
so,
That's something we'll be working on that before and try to
Great.
get that done before winter time comes.
wonderful. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Supervisor Bone?
I have a couple. So ditching along Harding and North Fork Road, even though North Fork isn't in my district, I drove it a couple of times recently. You know, there are some sections of North Fork that have no ditches that should. So, and then at the bottom of Nellie's Cave Road, the first dip as you're coming from Woodland Hills, before you go up the little hill to go down and then up the big one, the patching that was put at that bottom, I think the drainage probably isn't working because the patching from years past is kind of crumbling. Part of Harding Road, closer to the church or Luster's Mill, the edge is kind of crumbling. Brush cutting at the top of Nellie's Cave and Harding are covering signs now, as well as North Fork when you're going around the curves right in the middle of Ironto. And then lastly, there's no turnaround for trucks past this point at exit 128. That's not lit anymore. And it's covered with brush, so I don't know what's going. And it hasn't been lit for a little while, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Kitts?
No, I just want to say thank you for getting to that on Crab Creek. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, Supervisor King?
Just, thank you for Paul School Road, got them ditches cleaned out,
I only got those, yeah.
and they started cutting brush on Paul School, and if they would, if they could go a little bit further, because they didn't go past the hard surface.
Okay.
And I believe you talked to a gentleman here a while back about Piney Woods Road and Fairview Church right there, wanting to talk to you about lowering the speed limit through there.
I think he sent something, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I did talk to you last time about Childress Road, speed limit reduction.
Yeah, they're looking at that as well.
So can you look at the Piney Woods and that one
Piney
too?
Woods also? Okay.
Yeah. Right there at the four-way, you know what I'm talking about?
On Piney Woods,
Yeah.
at Fairview Church?
Yeah.
Right there, that four-way, yeah.
Yeah, because you got a hill that comes down.
Yeah.
And if people rolls through there,
Okay.
it's kind of hard to,
It's kind of an
See somebody
offset
going
little
across, right.
intersection too.
yeah. And just a little reminder about Stanley Road.
Yeah, yeah. That's one where if we knew exactly what to do, it would be easier, but that's something we're gonna try to get to. I think what we're just have to do is just try a couple things.
Okay.
Try this, hope it works. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. And we're gonna have to work with that property owner whose driveway comes in right there too.
Right. Well, I do appreciate you, Paul School Road.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Fidzikowski.
I hope you brought your big pad of paper there.
You realize though that every item just, the bigger the list I have, the fewer I'll get to.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll just flip the list and go from back to front. But yeah, I also had a speed limit request for Allegheny Springs Road, but it was very specific. It was in between the intersection of Mount Pleasant and George's Run, which of course is that straightaway. And I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but about supper time every night, I can hear from my house somebody on a two-cycle dirt bike or something. He cuts it wide open coming through there, and I don't know if that has something to do with it. A lot of folks believe that if you lower the speed limit, everybody's going to obey that speed limit. And of course, 25 years in the state police has taught me that's not true, but so much for that. But also got a brush cutting request for Willis Hollow Road, and I'm not sure how this citizen reports it, but he says he calls the 800 number, and I guess they give you a
The
file number.
Yeah, work order number, yeah.
Yeah, work order
Yeah.
number. And then he goes back and checks it a couple weeks, and they've cleared it, but yet he said the work didn't get done. So I don't know if it's him not giving a good description or
All
what
right,
that might
I
be.
can pull up those work orders. I'll check those.
But Willis Hollow Road and also Den Hill Road. Den Hill's gotten to the point where you almost have to either ride the center line or even cross it to avoid hitting all the brush that's, especially as you're going off of Roanoke Road toward Lester's Gate before you get to the railroad tracks. It's really thick in there. And you mentioned something about dust control.
Yeah.
Is that going to be countywide or?
Oh, yeah, they'll be working on that. It's throughout the summer, basically. And we just do it in front of houses and everything. We just try to get the dusty parts just in front of houses.
I got one request for, Boner's Run and into Boone Road in there. It gets pretty dusty, so that's all I got.
Okay.
Okay. And the only thing I talked to Mr. Clark last Tuesday about Brush Mountain Creek Road, and there's a resident out there that wants to talk to him about some specific things that are wrong there. And I didn't know, Mr. Clark, did you want to mention anything about last Tuesday's meeting as far as, in Salem?
Yeah.
That we had with the Secretary of Transportation?
It was a good meeting. It's the Salem District, 12 counties, 6-year plan public hearing. They still do those even though most of the projects that would normally be approved through that are done through Smart Scale now. But it's still a chance that for citizens and local governments to talk to the commissioner and the Secretary of Transportation and the director of the Department of Rail and Public Transportation as well. And we had several speakers from the area. Most of them spoke in favor of continuing the work on the passenger rail. So that was good. It's good for them to hear that and know that there's a wide range of support for that throughout the localities of New River Valley, trying to think what else was there at that particular meeting, but there's some displays in there that talked about some of the revenue. This is the year for revenue sharing. It's off years for Smart Scale, but revenue sharing and other things. And a lot of the areas here in Montgomery County take good advantage, especially Blacksburg and Christiansburg, of the revenue sharing projects.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments for Mr. Clark? All right, thank you very much. All right. So now we're going to move ahead to public hearings, and we have one. It's a proposed ordinance amending the D2 and D4 precinct boundaries in order to move 2065, 2097, and 2265 block of Laurel Ridge Mill Road in the Reiner area of Montgomery County from the D2 precinct to the D4 precinct in order to eliminate the Senate district split in the D2 precinct. And I don't know, Mr. McMahon, did you want to comment on that before the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll just provide a little context for the hearing. This request is come from the registrar's office. It was discovered when the state does their audit of they go ahead and audit all the voting, and they found that there's probably a mapping error done at some point when we did the last census where there's a portion of D2, which is the three residents that you mentioned on Laurel Ridge Mill Road that actually are in Senate District 4, and then everyone else in D2 is in Senate District 5, and so what that causes is a split voting precinct, and there's actually a state law that says you're not allowed to have those for obvious reasons, because it avoids the chance of error is the main reason, and it also keeps down cost. But and so the registrar has asked that we go ahead and do a slight change to the D2 and D4 precinct. And what they're asking you to do is move those three residents from D2 into D4 so that there's no longer anyone in D2 voting in Senate District 4. Everyone will be voting in 5. And so if we don't hear any comments otherwise, the registrar does hope that you can pass the ordinance tonight, because the next step, I'm going to have to submit a request for certification of no objection from the Attorney General's office, which we shouldn't have any problem. It's just going to, it takes a little bit of time for them to review it. So that's all I have. If you have any specific questions, I'm here to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments from board members before we have the public hearing?
Oh, one other thing, the registrar did tell me she's heard no comments from anyone objecting, that, at least her office hasn't, so.
Okay. All right, so I'll open the public hearing. We do not have anyone that signed up for this, but if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak to it, they may do so now. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this public hearing? All right, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Okay, and then next we go to public address. And so I'll read the guidelines for us. This is the time the Board of Supervisors welcomes citizens to present comments on issues related to the county. So we have a sign-up sheet beforehand that you may sign up to speak, and following any citizens that have signed up, if there are other citizens that would like to come forward, they may. All comments must be directed to the chair and the board members from the speaker's podium at the front of the room. And it's our time to listen to your concerns. We don't reply to questions during this time. And you come up to the podium, state your name and where you reside. You will have 4 minutes to speak, either as an individual or a representative. At the end of 3 minutes, you'll see a yellow light that comes on. It's a reminder light that you've been talking for 3 minutes, and then when a red light appears, that's your signal that your time is up. Speakers may leave any written statements and/or information with the board, with their board clerk. Speakers will be judged out of order should they engage in personal attacks, use profanity or abusive language, or debate with the audience. During public address, we ask the audience to please be respectful of the speaker's time by not applauding or interrupting or making comments. So at this time, we do have a citizen that is signed up, and it's Mr. Wayman Pack. Come on forward.
Good evening, Board. My name is Wayman Pack, and I live on Piney Woods Road in Roanoke, Virginia. And because it has come up again, I wish to speak tonight concerning changing our reassessment frequency from 4 years to a possible biennial or 2-year frequency. I'll be the first to admit that future increases using a biennial frequency would not likely show as large an increase in property values as the current 4-year does at the time of reassessment. But the 2-year schedule does come with trade-offs. I'd like to now remind this board of some inconvenient truths mentioned by our County Director of Management and Budget during the meeting held on October 10th, 2023. Remember that there are a few things considered one-time costs. Vehicles need maintenance, computers crash, personnel expect to receive raises to their salaries. And there are 95 counties in Virginia with 66 of those counties have 4-year appraisals. The 2 closest counties to Montgomery in number of parcels and taxable assessed value, Bedford and Rockingham, also use 4-year assessment. If going to a 2-year cycle has such obvious advantages to some members of this board, why are more than 2/3 of the counties of Virginia still on a 4-year cycle? Some board members say that we should hire our own staff to perform the assessments, thereby giving the county more control over the process in lieu of hiring an outside contractor. Using the director's own numbers, going to a 2-year assessment with our own employees would cost this county a projected additional $95,000 per year because of the following: salary with benefits, vehicles, laptops, furniture, and BOE cost. The total of these annualized costs is over $95,000 more than hiring a contractor. Does it make fiscal sense to spend more by going to a 2-year cycle on a maybe? Maybe we catch things that would increase the taxes collected, and maybe we would not. A lot would depend on the economy. If property values declined or did not increase during this period, we would also lose the 1% from the state to help pay for the reassessment. Mr. Magruder stated in his presentation, and I quote, "If the revenue neutral rate is higher than the existing rate, the revenue neutral rate is considered a tax increase and has to be advertised as such. While a rising market adds increased value and additional tax revenue, a falling market could need multiple years of tax rate increases to generate the same revenue, even with new construction growth." End quote. Think that it couldn't happen? Does anybody remember 2008? Mr. Meadows, who was our immediate past county administrator, pointed out that the current contractors who perform this work are having problems hiring and retaining enough qualified personnel. What makes this board believe that they will have a higher level of success in that area? I can almost certainly guarantee one thing. If this county continues to raise taxes as they have recently, the expected growth will be stifled, and no one wants to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward at this time? Mr. Beard. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bob Beard. I live here in Christiansburg. There's, I know it's been 3 weeks since last meeting, but there's just so many things to talk about. My list is a mile long. MCPS is converting their teachers into social workers. They've decided to take away from teaching math, science, English, reading, and critical thinking. The literacy scores continue to fall, and I expect declining enrollment to accelerate. Their decision contradicts the New York Times article, which says SEL's curriculum is a failed system. Other school systems have implemented this curriculum with no improvement and with harm. So you guys just raise their payroll by 5 cents for those guys. And to be honest with you, it may not be enough, because now teachers have to teach and be social workers. So we may need to double their salaries instead of just raising them 5%. The MCPS is also hiding that report of the incident happened at Blacksburg High School. I'm not going to say anything else, but the taxpayers created the report, paid for the report, I should say, but the school system won't release the report. It's taxpayer money, and yet it was FOIA'd and they will not release it. That doesn't sound quite correct. The cost of growth for local government and its impact on other citizens in this county is another issue. You know, you guys raised $6 million or got another $6 million for revenue growth, but that wasn't enough. We said we need another $6 million. The Board of Supervisors are using taxpayers as a money tree. Democrats are in charge, so let's grow government. All right, you know, then there's more concerns, but that list, like I said, is a long list. So let's talk about price gouging. I probably graduated from college before that supervisor was born, so maybe economics has changed. I checked several friends, neighbors, elected officials, business owners, and regarding their thoughts on price gouging and if it's causing inflation. Most of the responses I got back was that was an uneducated assumption. So, and if you suggest I researched that assumption, so I did. So my questions are, what is price gouging? What market conditions allow for price gouging? What is a fair profit margin? And is there a market standard for profit margins? So let's look at the basic level. We only have a couple minutes. First, pricing is supposed to be based upon supply and demand. So what interferes with supply and demand? Okay, the first and foremost thing that interferes with that is monopolies. Okay, when you have what allows for monopolies, when big government gets in the way, when you don't have a free market system, and you have 89% of your supply chain being controlled by China. Okay, so those are price gouging because those companies don't have aren't competitive. There's not a competition in there. That's what causes the price gouging. It has nothing to do with anything else but monopolies controlling when they don't have competition for their services, products and services. So what also gets in the way for that is big government policies. They keep on spending money over and over again, more and more money, and they keep and so there's government. I'm sorry, I'm out of spit. Excuse me. I get excited sometimes. All right, government control pricing, dictates interferes with pricing as well. We got illegal aliens in here. So we have, Tyson Foods decided to close their Iowa plant down and create jobs for 44,000 illegals in upstate New York. The big corporations are also using Chinese slave labor. The living wage in China is $5,000 a year, so they own nothing and they are happy. You know, Smithfield Farms is owned by China, Chinese owned. So allowing millions of illegals in our country impacts the labor market, increasing job competition, thus driving down wages.
Your time is up, but thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward? Come on up. Welcome.
Chris Waltz, 1370 Rigby, Christiansburg. You all decided to raise taxes. And there was a whole lot of hand-wringing in here before that, in your public meetings about, the state, they haven't come up with a budget yet. What shall we do? The sky is falling. Well, the tax bills have to go out on time. I've got an idea. It's an arbitrary date come up with by the government. Change the date. It's that simple. Move it to a later date so you could do like other localities and actually set it in June. And as far as the surprise of having to hire fire and rescue, that's a staff issue. It shouldn't have been a surprise to you. You should have known about it months in advance. But all of a sudden it's, oh no, we have to hire some people. And it's sad that the government does that, employs people that aren't giving them good information. I would like to thank you, Mr. Kitts, for your no vote on raising the taxes. That was the right move to make. But I would also like to see you kind of work on maybe changing the date, maybe, holding staff accountable for throwing a surprise on you at the last minute. And, to the other people, you aren't my representatives, so you probably don't care what I say. But you all need to do better. I mean, you raise taxes, and as some of you sitting up there, I hear it all the time, every time anything about money comes up. It's always the same. Well, we only have certain ways that we can get revenue. Let's just tax the hell out of people. And I've heard that statement, not exactly those words, but pretty much the same thing, over and over and over again. How about cutting some spending? That's an idea. You know, some wasteful spending, because there's a lot in the government. I could probably go through the budget with a red pen and find all kind of places to cut where you all waste money. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward at this time to address the board? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll close public address. Ms. Hill, do we have an addendum tonight?
No, we don't.
All right, then we're going to have a motion to go into work session to discuss Old Town Fields upgrades. Could I have such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Second that, I'm sorry.
Grafsky.
Okay. Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, I'm not sure who wants to start this. Do you want
can
to say
start.
something first and then probably Vice Chair Fidzikowski? Would that be the right
That
order
sounds
that you
good
would
to
like
me.
to do it? Okay.
Scott Woodrum is here this evening to give a presentation about a proposal for an upgrade to Old Town Fields. As you know, the Eastmont Community Foundation manages those fields, and they are used a great deal by the community. When they started using the fields, and currently they're a larger space, the proposal for the Shawsville EMS station will take part of that property. And so we wanted to look at what we could do to make that situation good for them and be good partners. And they do provide a lot in that area for the community. Supervisor Fidzikowski, did you have anything to add to that before Scott gets started?
No, I think you pretty much said it. They do so many programs there at the fields that it's, I'm sure it's very inconvenient to be hauling in all these porta potties and then having to remove them again. So this is something they really need. And I think that the evolution of this project, because it started out one way and then it kind of went another way, and now we're at the point where we've put a pause on the rescue building. So, but this part is something that we had kind of agreed to help them with. So, and it's my understanding the money will be coming out of that same building fund. So.
And the county does have some costs that we contribute to maintaining those fields related to mowing, but most of the costs are covered by the Eastmont Community Foundation.
So good evening. Hope everyone's a little warm. We'll try to speed this up a little bit. I personally apologize for that. So just to get you oriented where this discussion is centered around, this is Shawsville, Allegheny Spring here, the cursor there you see on the lower portion of the screen, and the long straightaway, and Shawsville Middle School, and the track and the field there, and there's the baseball field. Just get you oriented there with the location map. And then this is a kind of zoom in, an aerial of the subject property. And this has the tennis courts here in the center of the picture. Again, the baseball field to the right, the old football field and track, and there's the concession stand there in the center of the picture. So Old Town Fields is operated and maintained by the Eastmont Community Foundation. Eastmont Community Foundation was actually founded in 1982 as the Mountain Valley Charitable Foundation, and their mission is to support and enhance the quality of life in Eastern Montgomery. They host a number of events, including a summer concert series. They do the fireworks display, not from the field, but from the hill there in the background of the picture. And they have the people there on the football field watching the display, and they have some other special events at that location. The county actually entered into an agreement in 2016 with what was then Mountain Valley Charitable Foundation, granting them the use of the fields. And as a result of that agreement, the foundation is responsible for all required maintenance, including trash removal, mowing, and weed eating, and any other day-to-day maintenance for the property. The foundation is also responsible for the regular inspection and maintenance of the 4 light poles. They're wooden light poles that would light the football field. And if you go back to that picture there, you'll see they're burning there. The lights are. They also assumed responsibility for the utility accounts. There's 2 power, 2 accounts with ABCO, and there's 2 accounts with the PSA that they're responsible for. As part of that agreement, the county agreed to pay the foundation $4,000 a year. And in 2021, the agreement was set to expire, but it was then renewed for another 5-year period, and the county upped the payment to the foundation to $5,000 per year. So, as Supervisor Phil Jakowski mentioned, as the Shawsville EMS facility was coming to fruition, the baseball field area was being taken into consideration and was actually recognized in the agreement in 2016 as being a potential site for a future EMS facility. And so shortly after the project got kicked off on the design phase, discussions with members of the board of directors of the foundation began around the possibility of including a permanent restroom facility for citizens and an additional concession building for events. What they do today, especially for their higher attendance events, they have porta potties brought in, and that's how they serve. And so, doing a little bit of historical research, there was a building with vocational classes and a cafeteria over here on the left side of the screen here. And so back in the day when they had football games, that was where the restrooms were located. It was in that building, and they had a door. They had a door into the building and a door access from the outside into the restroom, so they could bolt the doors down, and they could use the restroom, but they couldn't enter the cafeteria. And so that building was torn down, and there's no public restroom facilities on this site currently. So in early 2023, staff began working with the director from the foundation to determine a scope for a project that would meet the needs of these events that had a higher attendance, a larger draw, and also to serve the typical daily use. There's a number of people who walk the track and throughout the day. So there was the concept that was developed was to follow something along the lines that has been constructed at the Creed Field site. And so here we have a picture from the Creed Fields restroom facility and a floor plan of a men's and a women's divided restroom building with a storage area. In addition to a dedicated restroom building, there would be a second building for vendor use and for storage for concessions. The storage would be secure. Both buildings would generally be masonry block with shingled roofs, and the restrooms would connect to the PSA utilities. There would be some additional study needed for sewer if we pump to the manhole. Questions about providing gravity based on the location of the available manhole and sanitary sewer system, and the preliminary costs are $400,000 to $500,000 is what has been currently developed. And this location here in blue, the proposed restroom location, that's where the current ticket booth is today. And the proposed storage or secondary concession building would be next to the existing concession building. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, well, let's go around and see if we have any. Supervisor DeMont.
I have two questions for you. The proposed restroom location, is it going to require extensive pipe to be laid to get there for the water? Or I know you've got utilities to the left side of the picture. Are there going to be problems to run it over there?
Again, we would have to do a little more research on, we would likely have to pump the sewer. There is a manhole that is about between this light pole and the road in this general location, but gravity is fighting against us, so we would
Yeah.
likely have to pump that to that manhole.
And then the water will get there easily?
Yeah, the water is
No problem.
not as challenging.
Okay. And then the proposed storage structure, are there any utility requirements associated with that? Power?
We would put an outside faucet or water spigot, and it would have power. And that's what the existing building has today.
I think it looks like two good upgrades that make sense for the facility, but I'll defer to Supervisor Fidzikowski on the uses and trust his opinion.
Okay. All right, Supervisor Boone.
Where's the new ticket place going to be?
So they had talked about the ticket booth is really not something they need, and they felt that placing the proposed restroom in that location was more reasonable, since there's already power to the ticket booth, so that's an advantage. Yeah, the ticket booth really wasn't something that they were focusing on.
And is there a particular reason why, like, the proposed storage isn't being attached to the existing concession building?
Yeah, we had talked about that. There were some reasons. I would have to go back and dig them back up.
To me, $400,000 sounds like a lot for what looks like small things. But I would imagine that the sewer and water might be a fair amount of cost too. Are we voting on this at some point in time, or?
If it's the consensus of the board to move forward, we'll bring back an appropriation request for you to vote on.
I'd like a little bit of a breakdown of the costs, where the costs are being generated,
Sure.
if that's okay. That's all. Thank
We'll
you.
work on that.
Okay. Supervisor Kitts.
No questions.
Okay. Supervisor King.
Just have a couple. When the foundation first come to us, and I've said this before, they said, if y'all allow us to use this, it won't cost taxpayers nothing. And then a couple years down the road, we started paying for mowing grass. We had another board member brought something in front of this board, well, a group of people did, a nonprofit. And the board at the time, the ones that was here, said we cannot use taxpayer money to put structures on a nonprofit's area, because it'll open up a gate. Now, I know these people do good work, I really do. But to me, I would like to see their financial statements and stuff, what they make down there.
We can get that for you, I think.
And here, you know, people are struggling to make it $400,000 or $500,000 for a bathroom. I mean, I'm going to repeat what was said when that group come in front of us. And I understand these people, they do good work. I'm not saying they don't. But this is opening the door, just like we told the other group that come in front of us.
Okay. And Supervisor Grafsky.
And this might be a question for the foundation themselves, but I'm just interested. How many events are they running? What's the attendance, things like how many folks are we talking about here? But I mean, I think Supervisor King, those are very good concerns, questions that you raise, and I'd be interested in that information as well.
Okay. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay, Vice Chair Fidzikowski.
I made mention of the evolution of this project because originally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, one thought was to add it to the EMS building and have it blocked off, similar to what you described they had at the old school that was there. And that didn't make any sense, I think, once we started looking into it. So then we kind of moved to, well, let's tear down the concession building and build a facility there that would house restrooms and the concession. I think that's what we looked at. And again, it just, in talking with the folks that run this, this proposal made more sense. And, you know, I understand that, you know, this is money that's being spent, but we're not really spending it on the nonprofit as much as we are improving property that belongs to the county. The kids from the middle school still use these fields during the school year. So this would provide them a restroom where they wouldn't have to cross back over Old Town Road to go to the school. So I think it's a really good plan. This group does an excellent job. The reason that they're able to afford things like this is because of the community support and the volunteerism. And I think that would be good to have their financials here because they squeeze every dime. They really do. They try to stretch it as far as they can. But this would enhance the facility and enhance the whatever activity was taken there, whether it's the 4th of July celebration, which is very big. If you don't believe it, just drive through there when the fireworks are getting ready to start. They're parked in every spot you can imagine, including 460. And it is the best spot to view the fireworks from anyways, because you're right there in front of that hill where they fire them off. But the concerts also bring in people from outside the county and within the county. So again, it's kind of a showcase for Montgomery County. So I think by doing this improvement that we have talked to them about for several years now, I think it's going to be good for our citizens. And like Supervisor King said, we don't question the good things they do. Besides running a thrift store and running the athletic facility, the gym, from all the other nonprofits that they support there at their facility, I think it's money well worth investing, and I'd like to see us move forward with it.
Would the board be interested in having the foundation come make a presentation to you about the things that they do, their programs and that kind of thing?
I don't know. They actually sent us their presentation that they had.
Right, they do have a presentation already. I think they would be willing to come. I can check and see if they would.
But I think the financials might help. To look at where their money is spent, it kind of gives everybody a better feeling about it. So I think that might not be a bad idea.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from the discussion is we would like the financial statements. We'd like to know about the events and the attendance. And that would go to Ms. Hill's point of maybe having them come and speak to us. And then I also heard from Supervisor Bone that maybe a breakdown of what you think these expenses would be when you're estimating it to be $400,000 to $500,000. So I'm hearing all that. So is it the consensus of the board that you would like this information before we were making a decision to move forward? Is that what you're thinking? Okay, we'll do that then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, comments or questions about this subject?
Is that storage building, is that just a building? storage
Yes.
shed,
The second building, yes.
and it's made out of cinder block?
Be a concrete slab, cinder block structure. Yes, sir.
I mean, I ain't telling them what to do with nothing, but couldn't you go out here and buy a shed?
I imagine that we
And
could discuss
blocks
that
and
with the
stuff?
foundation. That was something that we did discuss with them, and that having something similar to what was there today was the goal.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, okay, so now we need a motion to come out of work session.
Motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right, our next item, items of consent. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
All right, now this takes us to new business, and the first item is the ordinance that we had the public hearing on. And so that would be the ordinance amending the D2 and the D4 precinct boundaries. And so do we have a motion to do so?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Just one thing, Marty, now this is state, right? The state is mandating we do this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good
Thank you.
point. That's in your district too, so that's good. Okay,
Just want people to know that.
yeah, that's important. Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Our next item of new business is the VDOT 6-year secondary road improvement plan for fiscal year 2025 to 2030.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Our third item is a resolution supporting the Montgomery County Public School Board's Be Smart program, secure gun safety storage. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Now, this is just asking parents to lock up their guns,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, that's what
Okay.
it is. Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Grafsky?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Kitts?
Aye.
Chair Biggs?
Aye.
7
All right,
ayes.
that leads us to reports. County Attorney.
Just a quick comment. I just want to say thanks on behalf of the registrar for the board considering and improving the change in the precinct. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then let's go to County Administrator, Ms. Hill.
The budget, the state budget was approved and signed by the governor today, so we don't have exact figures for the schools yet, but the information we have looks like it's gonna be about, the increase will be about what we last thought it would be, which is $2.8 or $9 million from the state, so we'll let you know about that in the next few days when we find out. And staff had researched timing of tax collections and when we could set the date for tax tickets and that kind of thing. The real constraint is that the state code, which if I'm wrong about this, Marty, you correct me, it requires us to tell the schools, the Board of Supervisors, to tell the schools by May 15th how much funding we're going to provide for them for the following fiscal year. So if we, if it would only change it by 2 weeks, that it would only push the date by 2 weeks. It wouldn't really be a significant amount of time because of that requirement. That's all that we would gain. We wouldn't really be able to change. You would still have to make your decision before May 15th so that they could have the figure by that date.
Any questions on that or comments? Okay. Anything else, Ms. Hill?
That's all, thanks.
Okie dokie. All right, let's go to board member reports. Supervisor Bone.
Draft letter regarding MVP inspection and approval. Do you guys want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to that?
You could start, and we have a.
Yeah, why don't you start, and then I'll
Okay.
touch on the letter.
So,
Artie's handing out
the
draft.
pipeline people are really concerned about the testing that's going on and the fact that the pipeline isn't complete in our county, and are afraid that it won't be completed before the pipeline is put into service. So this letter is from us to FERC to ask them not to approve the pipeline to go into service until the safety testing and everything is done. That's all that this is. And the people that are prompting us to do this for our county say that if it, passes in our county, they'll turn around for Giles in Roanoke County to ask them to do the same thing in a similar manner. That's all. Do you guys have anything to?
If I can just add one just further thing, there's the Mountain Valley had entered into a consent order with FERC. Well, it's actually with the part of FERC that does the testing and the safety. And under that consent order, they're required to do a little bit more testing on the pipeline due to, I think, the fact that it's taken so long. And so MVP agreed to do that, and it's my understanding they're currently doing that. And so what the letter is asking is that FERC not let it go in commission until such time that everything's done under that consent order. And the consent order says they're going to do all that before they start using the pipeline. So the board's just basically asking FERC to enforce the consent order and make sure everything's done prior to commissioning the.
And so out in the ether, MVP is saying that they're going to put it into commission, I think, by the end of this month or something like that, which it conflicts with this. So this is just reinforcing, please, make sure that they abide by what they agreed to. And so if we can have a thumbs up about this, I would greatly appreciate it. Anybody have any questions?
Do you want to make that into a motion to pass it?
Can we?
I think consensus is fine, because it's just a letter from the board that the chair will sign, and we'll, my office has access to FERC, and we'll file it in the morning.
Okay. Do we have consensus to send it? Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Supervisor Kitts.
No report.
Okay. And Supervisor King.
Don't have no report, but this is a letter you're going to send out.
Yes.
Nothing changes?
Not unless you guys want to change anything, but the letter will be in front of Ms. Biggs to sign this evening.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
we'll get it out basically tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. And Supervisor Grafsky.
No report, but do just want to recognize and congratulate both our tech graduates last week and upcoming this week, our Blacksburg High School class of 2024.
Okay. And Supervisor DeMott.
I don't have a report, but I do want to highlight for just kind of say out loud the email that Jennifer Harris sent us earlier about the hurricane prep party being held at the Animal Care and Adoption Center on May 18th. That's a Saturday. That's from noon to 3 p.m. And that was not a misspeak. It's a hurricane prep party, prepping for the arrival of kittens. And so it should be a really nice event to visit the facility, kind of participate in a little prep party, maybe bring a donation of something that they can use for the kittens as they get kind of overwhelmed with all of the new little mouths to feed. So I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that on Saturday, May 18th from noon to 3 p.m. at the Animal Care and Adoption Center. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Fidzikowski.
I'd like to remind everybody that this week is National Police Week, and Wednesday is the National Peace Officers Memorial Day. It's on the 15th of every year. So if you get a chance to thank a cop, I would recommend it. They stick their necks out. I was listening today where they had to chase a bad guy and into town, and I don't know if they ever caught him, but he was all over the place. So
I think they did.
we really count on our police to keep us safe. So that's all I got.
Okay, and
They did catch her this
Oh.
morning. Just to
Yes, that's true. I want to thank Supervisor DeMont for bringing up the kitten party. That's really good. And also we don't have anything planned for National Police Week, right? There's nothing that we know that's going on. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, so on a personal note, for Blacksburg High School graduation, the very last class I taught of third graders before I retired they're graduating this weekend, so it's exciting. They were a great class. I can't believe that they're off doing their future journeys. I mean, it's exciting. So that's all I have. And I would like to remind everyone that our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, May 28th, because of Memorial Day. So is there anything else that needs to come before the board? If not, we're adjourned.